Yes, we did.
Yeah, PDF of the presentation and a YouTube link is there on the website.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw the PDF. I just hadn't gone searching for it.
Thanks very much.
Should be there, Keith, or Councillor Page.
Okay, so we're live streaming now, Council, so thank you. And the first item on the agenda is the five-year financial plan 2020 to 24. And the five-year financial plan number 3497 for the period of 2020 to 2024 is being presented to Council for consideration. And Sarah informed me that we're going to pass all four, right, Sarah?
Yep.
So one at a time, though.
Well,
One and two.
We'll do the first three
Yeah,
readings.
and then we do the final.
And then we'll do the adoption.
2 readings.
Yeah, so we do the first three readings and adoption. Okay, so the first, the financial statement bylaw number 3497/2020 will be introduced and read a first, second, and third time by title only. We need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Anderson, Councillor Morrison, second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Oh, sorry, Colin.
I just wanted to say thank you to council. I know that this has not been an easy time. I know that we were sort of at a path, and then when we had to switch for COVID, and I appreciated your questions. I appreciated your patience and the ability for us to wait a bit as we looked at the different dates that were being thrown around for, again, it's for tax rate bylaw, but it's getting in front of it for the whole piece. This has been challenging, and I just wanted to thank you for your patience and your input and your trust in council, in staff, that we've done the best that we can on trying to direct this ship at this time, and knowing that my projections are there. I'm hoping that we're better than I projected on the revenue side, and maybe the expense side we get to hold, but we'll make sure that we monitor this. We'll be giving the quarterly update is only 6 weeks away that the half year will be done, and so we'll get a look at and talk about that sometime in July.
Thanks very much, Colin. Thanks for all your good work. Okay, we got a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Anderson. Good to see you.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say, thank you so much to staff. Like, it was incredible what you were able to pull off in a very short amount of time. And, I think just for the public's knowledge, the reason why we're not having any discussion around this right now is that we went over it extensively during previous meetings. So everything in here we have discussed, and every single point on here has already been discussed, and so this is just the formal adoption, and that's why that's why there's not sort of more discussion on something like this. But it was amazing what staff was able to pull off, so thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Anderson. Okay, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Oh, we need a mover and a seconder.
We had one, Councillor Morrison.
That was for the first three readings. Do we have?
Okay.
We didn't pass that, though.
Yeah,
We need to adopt, but we need a.
but we didn't call the question on the number one first?
No, we didn't.
Didn't? On the first three readings?
I think that's what the mayor said.
That's what we're doing
Oh,
now.
so you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And number two, that the financial plan number 3497/2020 be finally adopted as presented, pursuant to powers granted to council by ministerial order number 139. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Anderson and Councillor Morrison. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thanks. Thank you very much. Okay, we have one more to go here, and that's the annual tax rate bylaw, and that's in your package also for 2020, and the annual tax rate bylaw number 3498/2020 for the first of three readings to be adopted pursuant to ministerial order number 139. And in here is the staff recommendation. We have 1 and 2 again. So I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Anderson, and seconded by nobody. Oh, Councillor Woodward. Any questions? Councillor Morrison has a question.
No, maybe.
It's just, could you, can I just have the chair, Mayor Dooley, would you mind reading that out so people hear what the tax rate is? We get to see it, but nobody else is going to see it. It's just so there's acknowledgement that we've worked very hard to have this 0% increase in taxation. So if you could just read out a little bit of the detail of it. Sorry, I don't have my iPad. I can't run my iPad at the same time that I'm doing all this other stuff.
Okay, so Kevin, do you want to do that? Because or Colin, sorry. Yeah, Colin, we'll leave that to Colin to go over that part. Thanks for that, Councillor Morris.
Yeah, 'cause council has not seen the tax rate bylaw. You've certainly seen the financial plan, and
Yeah.
this is the fallout of it. So
Yeah.
Colin has a little bit of a presentation.
Yeah. Thanks, Council. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, CEO Cormac. Yes, I think that it's important, as we know, we did go through the numbers significantly. We've been working on this since November. So yeah, a good over 6 months kind of time frame here. What I wanted to raise on the tax rate is always some of those top of head conversations that I think the council is pretty versed on, but again, even for the public, is the whole notion that changes in assessed values does not create additional taxation or lose taxation. So for example, if we've had a 10% tax assessment increase, that doesn't all of a sudden mean that the city is making all kinds of money. The same way that if we had a 10% loss in our assessed value, again, we don't have a loss of taxation that we need to make up. So again, what happens basically on the assessed value changes year over year, all things being equal. If my house went up 15% and your house went down 15%, we were the only two houses on the property, then my house would pick up the difference between your different lowering taxation and I would pick up the higher amount of taxation. So a couple of things that you'll note or that I'll talk about is just that you'll see, because we've had a 5% increase in our assessed values for residential and 6% for commercial. Again, there's a very small tweak on the business rate. We talked about that a bit at the presentation out to the public. So that's the way to kind of have our fixed sharing kind of ratios that we have. So we've kept that consistent based on policy that we had in the Schedule B of the financial plan. And that's kind of saying we want to keep the ratio. It's about 73-25 of residential versus commercial. So that's one of the things that we adjust each year. If you were looking at your tax rate, which is at the 3.2 this year, 3.5, I should say, it's actually lower than it was last year. And part of that is because we know that the assessed values had gone up by 5%. So again, that rate is actually lower than it was in the previous year. I think it's important to look as well on some of the additional slides that we talked about at the present presentation, just about where the breakdown is. You can see on an assessed value of a home here now that the property in that increase, it kind of shows on our average home right now is about $472,000 in Nelson. Again, with that increase, you can see that the city's taxation, again, if you're that perfect home, I think that's another piece that council needs to be aware of, is saying, wait a second, you told me that there was zero tax increase, but when they get that invoice for council, not from council, when the city sends the invoice for taxation, we collect on behalf of many agencies. And you can see on this particular list on the home first, on the single family dwelling, that the average home here would pay about $81 more, about $38 of that coming from the RDCK, another $42 from school taxes. And again, important because we know the council directed staff to have a 0% and to figure it out and to, wherever we can keep services maintained, which is we've done to the best of our ability, and try to really look at our cost structure to get us down to have that zero and not put a lot of pressure on our reserves. So in saying that, when you get that invoice from the city, it is going to be increased, even if you are that average home where a tax increase would be nullified because there was no municipal. So there's a bit of an increase there. I just think it's important because it can also be a challenge for someone that, we say that there's no taxes increase, but you may have a municipal tax increase. If, for example, you had a 6% increase in your assessed value and the average was 3.8, then you are going to pay more taxes because you are picking up more of the pie because the value of your home has increased. I just think it's important because I know that council may get phone calls, and that may be one of the conversations that happens, is that the first thing you might want to ask them if someone's saying, hey, I thought you said there would be no tax increase. Part of the first question for me would be to them is, what happened to your assessed value? Was there a big change? What was the change in your assessed value? And if they, again, were at 5, 6, 7%, you can, again, expect them to have an increase in the municipal taxes, but also on the larger portion of taxes that we collect for all agencies.
Or ask him to phone Colin. He's way better at that.
If you want to go down to the next slide, you'll just see Chris was able to put together, Chris Jury, our deputy CFO, just kind of what it looks like for a commercial property that's a restaurant with 50 seats. And you can see, again, too, if you're in that perfect storm of having the increase of 4.5%, that you would pay about $8,200 in municipal taxes. Again, RDCK, you can see that they've got 221, but the big one is down in the school tax, where the provincial mandate was to help out the commercial sector. So sections or classes 4 to 8 had a break on their school tax, and you can see that they will be paying actually about $2,200 lower as a total, but that's all coming from the school tax dropping down 70% lower rate than it was in 2019. So you can see that that's building that $2,427 break on school tax, and that's why they've got about a $2,200 break this year from taxes. Again, we've talked a bit about the fact that the municipality has stayed with the provincial mandate for due dates, in that July 2nd is the due date for taxes. If you are in class 1 or class 2, if you do not pay by that date, then the penalty will be applied, so a 10% penalty. However, if you are a class 4 to 8, although the taxes are due on the 2nd, and we ask our great commercial properties that are doing well to please pay your taxes, because we have a challenge with cash flow, as we, in the same way I discussed it, we collect on behalf of other agencies. We also need to remit those taxes to them. And on our financial plan, which again, when we look at it, we're in that $20+ million of collecting, or around $20 million in collecting on behalf of other parties, where we also collect $9 million for ourselves for the city. So that being said, that if you're in that commercial properties 4 to 8, that the penalty date, even though the due date is July 2nd, the due date is not until October 1st, so you need to pay by September 30th. I don't know if there's any other questions.
Councillor Anderson has a question.
Oh, I just wanted to make note that unfortunately the slides that you were referring to, Colin, the public wasn't able to see them. So they are available on the website, though. That's correct?
Yes, Councillor. Thank you for that. Again, as Councillor Page had noticed, we do have a link to my presentation, so you can walk through those slides, but there is also a PDF of the whole presentation that has these slides plus many more, kind of discussing tax assessment and the capital plan that we have. So thank you for pointing that out.
Mayor? Yeah. I just want to point out, I was not texting on my phone. I was actually doing some calculations. I thought the really interesting schedule is the one that shows the graphs and what happened to tax rates over from 06 to 2020.
Yeah,
So when I calculate that for residential, taxes have gone up on average about $31 a year. So that's less than $3 a month every year. So we run a lot of services for an extra $3 a month per resident, and obviously this year there's zero increase in that by any resident or business from our end. So I find that incredible that we can have police, fire, public works, all those services, and we get $3 more a month on an average year and zero this year.
can't even get Netflix for that. Councillor Woodward.
That kind of information, could we communicate that out to the public?
Yeah, we can. We normally do a publication out to the public around our financial plan, our taxes and that piece. Colin, unfortunately, this year this is his about 8th time, because we do 4 other municipalities doing these, so we're a little behind, but that's a great idea. We should get that information out, because I think people really don't recognize how little additional taxation we receive each year to try to manage a very large budget.
I just think, like, when you break it down to that kind of monthly level, it's really understandable for people, and they can see the value for what they're getting.
Yeah, no, great point.
And we have that in the slides as well, Councillor Woodward. We try to point out, we kind of have that reflection of what that monthly increase is. You'll see that in some of the slides from the presentation. Again, we talk about it and we say to ourselves, about $140 a month gets you all of your municipal taxes. I know that's about what I pay for my internet and phone. Landline, I still have a landline, internet and phone at home.
Smoke signals.
And so it's, again, one of those things that you think about the services, as the CAO has commented on, for that $140 a month, and yet certainly willing and don't complain. Well, my kids complain I don't have that fast enough internet, but that my internet plan is costing me the same as it cost me for all of the services we get at the city.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I was looking at that, Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did the calculation, because I was looking and think that's pretty reasonable since 2006, really, when you think about it. Thanks
Yeah,
very
and
much.
graphically, it shows what's happening to that mill rate or that tax rate dropping as residential property assessments increase. So they go in opposite ways, and
And you could do a similar calculation on the business one right beside it
Yep.
there, so
absolutely.
maybe you might want to do that.
Yeah, and I do know, again, for the commercial properties, when we did I think it was actually, was the BC Chamber or one of those organizations actually did a comparison of our tax rates for businesses in Nelson versus a number of other jurisdictions across the province, and we were at the bottom end of those.
Councillor Page.
I just wanted to, looking at these numbers, I know we're holding ourselves to a high standard of trying to deliver continually increasing services for the same amount of money or a small increase. I guess the real strong takeaway I would put forward to everyone, and mostly council as we go forward, is that the place to take some of that pressure off of the anxiety a lot of our people feel about the amount they pay is we need to fill in some of those pieces and holes and add new development. There is an element of here that without adding more to the base to contribute to our budget, we're not going to see a strong pressure put on the amount people are paying per thousand. Like, if we're really gonna help people feel that they're paying less taxes and getting more for it, it's gonna be bringing more things online, which we see some of that coming down the chute, but it's something to keep an eye on as we go forward. How are we gonna add to the tax base?
Yeah, the other thing is there's outside forces driving some of our tax increases as well, like hospital, school district, and regional district. That's been a big driver of our increases over the last 15 years, maybe even more so.
We can really try to control the expense side of things. It's just from that angle, it's where are those new opportunities to bring in new revenue?
And I think as council went through the adjustments we had to make this year, and that was all coming from those other revenues we drive. The city of Nelson, I would suggest, is probably one of the most entrepreneurial cities out there in all of this province, let alone I would stack us up against pretty well anybody across the country. So we have been very entrepreneurial, and we've had councils that have been supportive of that, and I know this council is as well. What helps in good times creates that challenge in bad times. Like now, those are the areas that we saw significant drops in revenues. Parking, parkade, campground, all those type of things are the ones that we're quite challenged, but by and large, those are areas that is been a long strategy of ours, is how do we keep tax rates down? How do we earn revenues in other areas of our province? And that's across our organization. You know, the police department with their Keep a Prisoner program, you know, being that provincial jail for provincial prisoners, how they use their dispatch, you know, how our other departments, well, a good example this year is we're going to contract with the developer of 520 Fall Street, the new affordable housing project, with our own forces. So instead of that having to be paid by our water and sewer rates, that's actually going to be paid by that developer. So that staff time this year will be paid that way. So I'm super proud of the what we do as an organization, and as I said, you need councils that support that, because it's really easy if you get your head whacked off to keep your head low and not do any of those things.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you very much. Okay, onward and upward. Where were we, Sarah, when we started this? We need a mover and a seconder.
We've got a mover and a seconder for first three readings.
And we need to call the question on number 1. That the Corporation of the City of Nelson Annual Tax Rate Bylaw number 3498/2020 be read a first, second, and third time by title only. All in favor? Thank you. And number 2, that the Corporation of the City of Nelson's Annual Tax Rate number 3498 be adopted pursuant to the powers granted to Council by Ministerial Order number 139. We need a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Morris and second by Councillor Anderson. All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Carried. That's it.
Mayor, could I have just a couple minutes of
Yeah.
time?
And go ahead, Colin. Yeah.
So I know that we finished this part, but I just also was at the Public Works meeting this morning, and I wanted to just give council a heads up on a few things. We'll plan to have some ads out, I hope, anyway, here for the long weekend. We've had a lot of success, and I know that council is aware that we're doing that the ministry is doing the paving through the highway through town, and we've taken that opportunity to deal with a number of upgrades that need to happen for our water system. And I just wanted council to be aware of the section between basically your Shell station and the 7-Eleven. That is finishing up this week, and they're prepping it for paving, so that should be done and out of the way here before we kind of hit the long weekend. In the same way, city staff has done really well with the work at Kootenay and Vernon. Then they are hoping as well that as a minimum, the portion of the road that has been cut into will be patched or paved there that joins near the highway, so that'll be taken care of. But they are now mobilizing, and they will be mobilizing over to the west end of Baker. And they plan to be there on Tuesday, so after the long weekend, but the west end of Baker will be closed at this point in time for approximately 2 weeks while our city staff go in and deal with utility work that needs to happen on the Baker Street four-way. There will be, obviously, because it's a busy intersection, there will be traffic control, but basically you'll be able to get down to the Best Western and to those locations, but you'll have to turn around and come back up. It won't be receiving any traffic through that section, and that's because our equipment and that sort of things will be there. Just again, we're hoping to get that out, Facebook, our usual things. I've suggested that we get it out on the radio this long weekend, because I know that could be a bit of a tie-up for people. I just want council not to be surprised by that, and because once that portion is done, they're then moving up about 150 feet, and they'll be doing the city workers are going to do the force main across to where Fall Street is. So if you kind of think that section there. Now we're working with Ministry of Transportation. Likelihood is that we will get, we will have, our preparation work done. And then the idea likely is to start at like 4 a.m. And cut on one side and get the pipe in and then have traffic alternate. But they're working with the Ministry of Transportation. So just know that can be a call that council gets pretty on a regular basis about traffic and not knowing, so we are trying to get that out there, and we're hoping some radio ads will also educate people, and so that you don't get too many phone calls.
Colin, the line marking?
Yeah, the line marking is almost completed. As far as stop signs and the usual lines, the long line individuals are coming. I know that there was a hope from the transit manager there that they would look at where the lines are, because there's a few of them where they got drawn last time that cause the buses, no matter what, because of parked cars, to be across the yellow line, and ICBC doesn't care if you're across the yellow line, you're across the yellow line. So they're taking a bit of time to make sure that they've got them lined up properly, to make sure that we've got proper widths for buses. So that hopefully will be done next week. That is the hope for that. Yeah, and another exciting thing is there's some new development coming that we were not necessarily aware of. So some more servicing jobs, a rather large servicing job is coming to the city. They've indicated their desire for that. So again, we seem to be running into situations here where our staff are able to tackle a number of these projects. Again, that's helpful for the city's income statement, but also helping these different developments get off the ground, as Councillor Page spoke to, of getting that a stronger tax base. So again, just some I guess excitement around what's coming here, and that will keep them busy, I think, for most of the summer with the servicing jobs that are on the line, and then this new servicing job that's coming.
Good. Thanks, Colin. Councillor Page.
I just wanted to send our thanks to Public Works. I've heard nothing but good things about the Anderson upgrade particularly. I have had a couple good comments coming from the public that service down there has been good, traffic control's been good, and that everyone's been getting things done, and people are really seeing the progress. And I think people have a good sense that we have this project coming along, and paving's happening, doing preparatory work, and they're pretty jazzed about it. So I just want us to send that back down to Public Works, that people are noticing the good work, and we're noticing it from here.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor. Our crew has been on Vernon and Nelson Avenue. The Anderson Street project is a company out of Salmon Arm that's doing that section through Anderson Street there, and they've done a terrific job. Really, they've been excellent, and they've coordinated very well with our Public Works, I think, as well on that project.
Yeah, and I think when we have contractors doing our work, it is our project manager that's managing that work as well. So it's not, it's not been done on its own by a contractor without that supervision. And Rob Nystrom manages those capital projects. And actually, again, I think just a shout out to them. I know there's a fourplex being built, and Rob took the opportunity to say, here's a different way to deliver this and make a big saving for that developer on the utility side. And that's the lens we have with all the work that's done in the city.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Colin. Okay, folks, we need a motion to adjourn. You can go back to your daily grind if you wish. Councillor Morrison and Councillor Page, all in favour? Carried. Thanks very much. Take care.